Sometimes when I'm suffering, I feel guilty because my problems are so much smaller than people who are dying for their faith or are in terrible situations. So, Joe, how can I feel sadness without feeling bad?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's one that we all wrestle with as well. So thank you for asking that. And I think there's an appropriateness to your question because on the one hand, you're right. We do need to hold these things in perspective. I remember going through a real struggle in my late teens when I felt like I basically had made an idol out of cosmetics in my life and an image, and I needed to give that up for Lent. I mean, it was only like, a couple of months, but I found it so hard. I remember bursting into tears, weeping on the floor, saying, God, I'll give you anything, but don't ask me to let go of that. And I remember feeling so convicted that other people were laying down their lives for the gospel and I couldn't give up my mascara brush because that's how caught I was in this idol. And sometimes we need to be reminded of that right perspective. I think I'm about to absolutely botch a quote from Tim Keller, so I apologize to him if he ever finds out, but it's basically along the lines of, humility isn't about thinking more of yourself or less of yourself. It's actually thinking more about others. And so I think it's good to have that perspective of saying, okay, this really hurts me, but yes, there is a persecuted church, and yes, other people the world over are suffering. I think we're in a culture that's very much about a victim mindset where everything is always about my pain, my suffering. I'm the most hurt person in the world. And it doesn't mean we're not hurt, but that can be dangerous for us because we get so self-involved and self-centered that we're not able to love others. And, as Christians, we're called, what is the model of love that Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we're called to lay down our lives for brothers and sisters. So right perspective there, Savannah. And yet the balance to that is to say, God doesn't minimize your pain. He doesn't think you're small-minded, for things that really hurt you, that maybe aren't a big deal to someone else, but they are a big deal to you. And God sees, how much it takes you. I mean, maybe it's a slightly different analogy, but I was thinking of, the widow's mite, and the widow who, she only had a tiny bit of money to give, but she put it in the offering, and Jesus honors that gift because he knows that however much that seems like not a big deal and not a lot of money, the thing that she had to give up, to her it was everything. And some of us have real deep struggles. There are things in your life that actually have been really, really hard and really painful for you. And it doesn't matter if that's someone else's struggle or not, because it's yours. And part of the beauty and the intimacy of walking with God and him knowing you that well is he knows exactly how hard something may be for you. And so I think he cherishes that and he delights in that when we invite him into our pain, when we say, actually, God, I'm not going to be fake with you. I'm not going to pretend everything's fine or just suppress my feelings. God has never asked that of you, but bring them to him, invite him into the journey, ask him to see things, help you to see things as he sees them. And that will help you to have that right perspective of, on the one hand, being able to walk out that pain with him, and at the same time to ask him to keep renewing your mind to see it as he does, and that will give you the right perspective. But for one person, they're laying down their life. For another person, you might be laying down a relationship, and some people might say that's no big deal, but you know how much that meant to you and what the fallout and the cost is in your life. So God honors those sacrifices. We're all called to be living sacrifices, and that is a hard thing to do. But let the Lord measure it. You don't need to measure it yourself or compare yourself to others.